to go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everyone to today's insight session, and we are going to talk about one of the Stratum connectors from the Access Hub, and it will be the Power BI connector. So that's our topic for today is the Power BI connector and how you can use that to integrate that into your Stratum data repository and tap into your Stratum data so that you can use the visualization tools that Power BI provides for you. My name is Adam Kurtz, and I will be guiding you through today's topic. Again, we'll be talking about Power BI's integration into Stratum. We'll look at ways that you can connect Stratum to your Power BI desktop so that you can integrate those views and hence your data with these powerful desktop visualizations, leveraging your Stratum data hub and the views that you've constructed. We're going to take a look at a demonstration once we talk about a few concepts. And then if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat feature. There's the data hub for Stratum, and we'll be concentrating today on the Access Hub, which is on the lower right quadrant. And again, Power BI connector is part of that, where you can tap into the data using the Power BI connector. But as you can see, the entire license includes also an Excel connector. So you can use Excel as your front end. Also has access to email distribution. So part of that is the broadcast server. So that's available as well, and a few other features as well. So if you're not familiar with what Power BI is, it's basically a visualization tool that's developed by Microsoft. It's a fairly easy tool to use. It actually lends itself nicely to both casual and advanced users. It can be cost effective. There's different tiers of pricing that you could license it with. Of course, that's all done through Microsoft. So feel free to look at your options there. But yeah, it all kind of depends on what your requirements would be as an enterprise for your analytics. But what's nice about Power BI is that it's fairly fully customizable in terms of the visualization options that are available. There's lots of options to customize these visualizations and make your dashboards really pop. So, it's a great tool for that. It provides simple collaboration. So when you're building these dashboards and reports, you can collaborate with other users, upload them to the Microsoft Power BI cloud, where other users can enjoy the benefits of some of the visualizations and dashboards that you put together. There's a library of custom visualizations out there on the internet, and um, you can certainly develop your own. But there's a rather large community out there for Power BI, and so plenty of resources to tap into. Um, and bottom line is Stratum, is a great visualization tool itself, but if you need something more custom that Stratum doesn't provide, well, certainly Power BI is a great way to do that. So basically, Power BI sits on top and of your viewer access. There's a small piece, a small add-in that you would be able to install that gets downloaded from us as long as and you have the appropriate licensing. You will then download the Power BI connector setup file. And so that would be needed so that the user then can install that and do the necessary installation for the Power BI connector. So once that's done, then you can tap into the views within Stratum and start now building your dashboards against the Stratum data. Once you provide that access, it'll ask for a URL to the Stratum environment. We'll take a look at that in a second. And once you make that connection, you'll get access to the views. As you can see there in the navigator section there in the middle, those are the views. Each view belongs to its own unique folder. So, each folder represents a unique view within your Stratum environment. And then you would just select the view that you want to bring into your designer. So in this case, we highlight the comparative sales view. And on the right-hand side, Power BI will then provide a preview to the data so that you kind of get a clue as to, what's entailed for that particular view. So it's pretty nice. Once you integrate that view into your Power BI desktop, the view then becomes available on the far right-hand side where all your data sources are available. So again, you'll have that available. It'll look just like you're tapping into um, a table, essentially. And as you can see, it represents all the measures with a sum, a Greek sum sign there telling you that that's a data measure as opposed to a level. As you can see below, sold to and division, the levels will just appear vanilla. So pretty easy to bring in, pretty easy to tap into. You then can start on the left-hand side with your visualizations, and then go ahead and start configuring those against whatever views that you brought into your desktop. So it's a pretty simple process. I've been using this now for several years, and yeah, it's pretty powerful. As long as you build the view accordingly, it works out very well. We'll take a look at that, uh, and we're getting ready to hop into a demo so that we can take a look at how this is configured live, just using the product. There's my email address and my phone number if you feel like contacting me. If you have any questions about your licensing or anything about Stratum or today's session, feel free to contact me and we can talk about it. So let's take a look at how we would use this using the Power BI piece. So now I've got my Power BI desktop open. And as you can see there, I'm already within a dashboard that I've created using the Stratum Power BI connector. So once you have the connector installed, as I said, there's a setup file that you would download from our customer net site. And if you don't have access to that, feel free to contact me, or you can contact our support group and they can set you up with access. But as long as you have license availability, you can then download the setup file and get the Power BI connector installed. Once it's installed, then you can go ahead and tap into your Get Data button there on the Power BI Connect and within Power BI. Here we can select our sources. Common data sources would be all these different SQL Server, Excel workbooks, all kind of a text file. But we want the Stratum connector, so we want to go ahead and select more. It will then bring up all the lists of different ways that you can get data into Power BI. We're going to select Other. And then once you have that connector installed, you'll see Sylvan Stratum views. So that's what we'll connect to. We'll go ahead and click on connect. And now it's asking me for the URL to Stratum. So in that case, I'm going to go and copy it from my browser because I've already got it open. So I'm just going to take my URL. I'm going to copy that so that I can make a connection and tell it where to go grab my views. So that's pretty easy to do. We make that available. And then we make the connection. So now it's connecting. And we should see our views here momentarily. And there they are. So there's all the views that are within my Stratum environment. If I wanted to select a particular view, or if I'm looking for something particular, I can actually type in a keyword or a series of words where, as you can see, my Power BI views then would become available. So it's a great tool to use if you're looking for something, or a particular view or set of views. It's a great way to find it. Once I make the selection and I open up the view folder, I select the view. As we saw in the presentation, it then shows me a preview of the view. And as you can see, it just kind of shows all the data fields that are available from that view. Once I click on load, it then becomes available over here with my data tab. And there it is. So that's the view I imported. And as you can see, all the different measures are there with the Sigma sign next to them. And then all the levels that we can aggregate on are presented as well in their vanilla form. One thing you'll notice, the descriptions come across as well as fields of information. So certainly, anything within that view is going to come across as a field, essentially. If we were to take a look at that view within the Stratum interface, we can play the same game and go look at that view here. we can see what the view looks like within Stratum. So let's talk a little bit about, what the views should look like and how you should construct them. So here's the view I just tapped into, and you'll notice that within my navigational pane, we're drilled into everything. So we want to make sure that you are drilled into all the levels. Otherwise, if you're not drilled to a specific level, it's not going to show up in the Power BI connector. So it's important to understand that if you want these levels to show up in your Power BI connector as fields so that you can select them and put visuals over those, make sure that you've tapped into all and drilled to all your levels that you want to make available. So here we can see division, region, salesperson, product brand, all the way to sold to, and then product family, product line. I got quite a few fields here because I want to make sure that I've got the necessary all the necessary fields that I want to make available so that we can do the necessary visualizations and dashboard reporting. So that's one thing. Okay. Another thing you'll notice is that my subtotals are all turned off. So, that helps us kind of get rid of rows within the data source that we don't want, right? So Power BI will actually treat the subtotal as just another record. And we don't want to incorporate those as well. So turn your subtotals off for each one of your levels. If you don't know how to do that, you can go and right click up here in the navigator on each level and go to their properties menu, and you'll see that total option there available that you can go ahead and turn off. Another way to get there would be to open up the View Explorer, and this way you can have all the levels available to you here, and I can just select each one and have them. As you notice, the properties are showed up down here below, so you can go ahead and control your totals down here as well. All right, so and there's the total sign right there. So we want to make sure that for each one of the levels, actually, we would do that for the levels. So the divisional level here, totals are off, region, the totals are off, and so on and so forth. So make sure they're all off for each one of your levels, right? So, and that way the subtotals and the grand total rows won't be present. So you don't want those, right? Let's take a look at the measures, because if we take a look at the measures, we can see that the headers are static. So it's another thing you want to take a look at, is to make sure that if you're using time range, in this case, and we are, if you notice, I double click on that measure, we can see that for that measure I just double clicked on, there's the time range for it down below. So by default, the time range would show up in the header, and that might change depending on how you construct the view. For instance, if this is using based time, so as we move through the year, yeah, the current month will change, so my header will change, and we don't want that. We want a static header, because that way it'll Power BI connector won't break the relationship to that field. For instance, if I choose a field and it changes the name of the field, well, Power BI is still looking for the old name. So that's why we want static headers. And if you don't know how to create those, simply you can go into the calculation itself, or the column, and probably the easiest way to do it is to right click that column and go to properties, and you'll see a caption expression area here, where, as you'll notice, the time range portion has been overwritten and is now just static text that we typed in. We're still using the smart measure, so in case if you ever want to change the measure, that'll change with it, but that will never change anyway. The measure name should not be changing at all. But with time and using time range, we want to make sure that we get that piece out and we put in some static text there to make sure that that covers off on what that time range should do. So, and that's why within the Power BI connector, when we tap into that view, we see those measures, and basically they're concurrent with what they say within the view itself. So So again, that's how you would want to build a view. One other thing to keep in mind when you build your views is you don't have to bring in everything, right? So leave larger dimensions out if you're, dealing with millions of rows of data. Probably not a great idea for dashboarding and reporting purposes, at least for visualization dashboards. A good practice would be to bring in high to intermediate levels of data, and then we have an option for you to drill to detail. So if you want to see low levels of detail like ship to skew, again, it depends on your environment, of course, but invoice level, order, you can leave those out, and then the users can then use the drill through buttons to get to the detail of that. So let's take a look at an example of that. Here within my dashboard, as you can see, I've got different visualizations. We can see what Patrick is doing simply by clicking on Patrick. His numbers over here are a million year to date, roughly. His rolling 3 month is by about 400K, and currently he's doing about 106K for the month, right? Nicole, a little bit lower numbers, so but she's still a big tile there, so she's still a big part of the picture in terms of what she's doing and how she's doing with the business, and so on and so forth. I can highlight each one of these guys, and this is all coming from the view that I've integrated in. It's not magic, this is just simply coming from the data that comes from my view. So for instance, Patrick, I can see these numbers. I can see how he's doing up here from a product family or a brand perspective, but maybe I want to see what his business looks like at a customer sold to or a ship to level, or drill to product. See what the products that under each one of these brands, Farm Fresh, First Choice. How is he doing? So, if you notice, I've got a little drill through button and allows me to drill to stratum detail. And while I have Patrick Hurley highlighted, I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And it's going to then drill me to stratum and take me into a view that will then allow me to drill into that detail. And so, and we can see that this is the old URL. It should have the new one there. So I'll just copy and paste that in. And that's what it would look like. So it drills me to the view, and that won't happen. Obviously, you'll have, I've got some configuration issues to deal with there, but drills me to a view, and it also throws in a filter for Patrick Hurley on the fly. So I don't even have to think about it. And these are Patrick's numbers. So if I want to see Patrick's products, or if I want to drill, we knew that, and I can sort over here on his sales year to date. And we know that Farm Fresh and First Choice from the dashboard, we already knew, how he was doing. He's doing well with these brands. But now we can go in and drag and drop product down here and see the products under Farm Fresh. So now we're getting more detail. We see a lot of good things here. Some items that he didn't sell last year, he's doing quite well. His numbers look really, really strong for a lot of these year-to-date numbers, right? So again, that's an easy way to get to that detail, is being able to drill to it and highlight a given rep, and then and go ahead and drill to the detail. You don't have to include it within your dashboard. There's no reason to clog up your dashboard or clutter it with, or for that matter, it'll perform horribly because it's trying to bring in all this data into the report. So again, that's something that you would want to keep out, and use the drill through button accordingly, and then configure that so that your users can enjoy the benefits of the visualization and the dashboard, but then have an option to go to the detail and see some of the devil into the details. We only glean so much from aggregate levels, but giving having an avenue to get to the details really helps the analyst answer their questions. So it's really important to make sure that's available. So, again, being able to tap into these views, you can also tap into other things, other tables that you might have within other databases. As long as they have commonality with these views, you can incorporate additional data from other sources as well. So you can really, take this to the next level. And then once you're done, obviously you save this. Power BI has a great way to upload the report so that you can then publish it to the cloud. You'll notice a publish button here that then becomes available within your the cloud environment, and then the user community can enjoy the benefits of the dashboard. And you can also publish it within Stratum. You can make it a home page. You can put it into Stratum dashboards. So there's a lot of things that you can do to incorporate that and integrate it within the Stratum interface as well. So that's what I wanted to cover today. I wanted to thank everyone for their time.